Good evening, everyone. With the time being 6:00 p.m. on Tuesday, May 11th, 2021, I will call this meeting of the Webster School Committee to order. As a reminder, on March 12th, 2020, Governor Baker issued an executive order modifying certain requirements in the open meeting law to enable public bodies to carry out their responsibilities while adhering to public health recommendations regarding social distancing. The executive order relieves public bodies from the requirement in the open meeting law that meetings be conducted in a public place that's open and physically accessible to the public, provided that the public body makes provisions to ensure access to the deliberations through adequate alternative means. In this case, we're utilizing Zoom, and we have listed information for joining the meeting on the school district website. As another reminder, this meeting is being recorded, both audio and video. The first item on the agenda is the approval of the April 27th, 2021 minutes.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to approve the minutes. Lori, would you poll the committee, please?
Member Naprata,
Yes.
Member Blythe,
Yes.
Member Millette,
Yes.
Member Adamopoulos,
Yes.
Chair Siddiqui.
Yes, the motion passes unanimously. The next item on the agenda is the superintendent's report. Good evening, Dr. Gogan.
Good evening, everyone, and a belated Happy Mother's Day to all. I hope everyone's doing well and enjoyed a little bit of time out in that beautiful sunshine today. I'm going to start with my personnel update. I'm pleased to let you know that we've hired Katie DeMayo as the Adult Education Employment Advisor and Lead. As you know, we had our town meeting last night. I'm pleased to say that the town budget passed. As you also know, we have worked collaboratively with the town to come up with the additional funds that we needed to. So all is good on that front. We're pleased about that. In my report, I am sharing with you the Southern Worcester County Collaborative Quarter 3 report. I would like to give you some updates on what's going on at SWEC. Lena Travinsky, who has been the executive director's administrative assistant, has gotten her business manager licensure, and she will be taking over as the business manager upon John Love's retirement at the year end. Arnold Lunwall is the new executive director, and I'm pleased to report he's doing a great job. We're completing his first year eval. They are projecting 350 to 400K loss due to enrollment. Unlike us, they have a surplus fund. Webster stands strong at having 12 students over at SWEC in a variety of their programs, and their graduation is scheduled for June 8th, and we'll have 2 students crossing the line from Webster over there. One crossed the line last year, but because of COVID, there was no ceremony, so he may join them this year. Historically, Mrs. Barris and the team chair and I try to attend those graduations over at SWEC, and that is on June 8th. In our other updates, things are pretty busy. May is probably the busiest month in the year in schools. MCAS has started over at Park Avenue and Webster Middle School. It's a bit complicated this year with remote testing and whatnot and new regulations. So I want to give a shout out to our principals and Dr. Mackay for really taking the time to do the trainings and make sure that we're dotting our I's and crossing our T's. It's a little bit of a different lift this year with MCAS. Any questions before I move on? Okay. We've been working for the last year for our tiered focus monitoring site visit, and it's occurring this week. We had some visitors on site on Monday. We'll be wrapping up tomorrow with end of the cycle interviews, Mrs. Barris and myself. But I'd like to see if Mrs. Barris is on. And she is. I would like to just give a shout out to Mrs. Barris and Dr. Mackay for all of their work in preparation for this tiered focus monitoring site visit. What people don't know is it's extensive. The reporting, the filing of collecting records and producing reports is extensive. So Mrs. Barris, can you give a little depth to that?
Sure. Good evening, everybody. Thanks for having me. The tiered focus monitoring, as you know, is the audit that has replaced the CPR audit, which is the coordinated program review. You've probably heard me talk about that in the past. So this is every 6 years, any programs under the federal programs guidelines, civil rights, special ed, ELL, for instance, are audited for compliance to the regulations. And so I have been working with Dr. Gogan on the civil rights piece as well as the special education piece. The focus is on areas that the district there may be some, not flags, but, areas that the Department of Ed would like to kind of focus on based on our data that's submitted to the Department of Ed. So, but we're also monitored for some basic regulations having to do with compliance to the special education process. So they were here yesterday reviewing our files. We initially submitted about 16 files for our self-assessment piece of it, as well as uploaded, I can't even really count how many documents were uploaded for the review. But they review that information and then come in and do a verification of our files. They will look at files to compare like what we've reported and just kind of checks and balances, as well as documents that or files that fall under areas such as assistive technology, discipline, and in our case, extended evaluation was an area that they wanted to see more information about. So we provided them with that information yesterday and prepared the files for them over the past week or so. And they were here for most of the day and, had some questions in between. But, we felt like we, provided our best information to them, and hopefully, we will have minimal findings. You always expect to find, one thing or another, maybe a late date. And especially this past year with COVID, we really tried to stay on track with our timelines and adherence to the regulations. But things like, for instance, our evaluations, we had to stop, mid-spring last year. So we were behind on that, as was every other district. But we quickly got up and running. And so I think, we really did a nice job responding to that. One area that they did request information in that kind of came after our training for this was what they called SE22, which had to do with how we responded to the COVID-19 pandemic in terms of what we did for special education. So I was able to provide them with a summary of the activities, the trainings that we did to help our providers get up and running for evaluations, as well as instructions such as like our ABA training last spring that we did for telehealth, and provided them with examples of our remote learning plans and our service learning plans, which we implemented this year. So that was an area that hadn't been part of the original training for us. So tomorrow is our final day with our interviews. They'll be interviewing a chairperson for our SPED PAC. They'll be interviewing one of our team chairpersons. Myself and all of the principals will be interviewed tomorrow as well. And hopefully at the end of the day, we'll get some initial feedback from them on, what things look like, and we'll be able to maybe get a jump start on any corrective action that we have to do. So that is really my portion of it. And I think Dr. Mackay, could speak to the ELL portion much better than I can at this point. Does anybody have any questions about this special ed piece or civil rights?
Thank you for the summary. It was very informative.
Okay, great.
I know how stressful it can be to go through some type of an audit where people are looking at the good work that you've done all year. So wish you luck.
Thank
I'm
you.
sure it'll go well.
Dr. Mackay, do you want to give us a brief summary?
Sure. We participated alongside or simultaneously with the ELL audit this year, the tiered focused monitoring. And I'm actually happy that this happened, this being my first year doing this, because it was a great way to learn the systems of all the components involved with the program. And I want to give a shout out to Mrs. Barris for helping me acclimate to all of the ins and outs of the components. And so similarly, we had a self-assessment where we had to ask ourselves some pretty important questions about how we're doing with the different components of L, from the initial identification of students and what happens upon registration, to the screening process, to making decisions about programming and scheduling, to curriculum, to parent notifications, translation services, and access, testing, and what happens with monitoring of students, whether they're doing well or not doing well, reclassifying, all of those procedures. And so today was our interview. Mine was via Zoom, and they also interviewed a teacher at the elementary school and a teacher at the middle school, followed by my interview. Our initial findings are good, actually better than I anticipated, with some observations of things that we have in place, but they were minor things that, knowing that we have them in place, they weren't findings. A couple of areas that we need to continue focusing on, and we've already started the work, is one area is curriculum. So really understanding the curriculum for English language development. And I think it aligns with everything else that we're doing across the district, talking about our curriculum. And then the other piece was translation. We've done a lot of work with translation, but one of the places that we have to become more coordinated and consistent across all three schools is capturing the information about our families who request translation or interpretation. So we do a nice job. We've done a lot of work. We do a nice job actually translating when we're aware, but how do we capture that information? We need to do it in a more comprehensive way. So again, we've started that work, and we'll put some systems in place that make it consistent across the schools so that we're meeting the needs of all the students. And that's an important piece, because we could have students that are not considered L students based on their eligibility, but their families could still request translation. And so we need to capture this information for all students, not just the students identified as L. So that's a place where we need to do a little bit more work. Other than that, I was very happy and pleased with the systems that we've been able to put in place and continue the work that was done prior to me being here, and have a good idea of the action steps that we need to take from this point forward to continue providing our L students with the programming that they deserve. So thank you.
Thank you both for the hard work, and for all the people in central office that have helped with collecting files, and our team chairs and our special educators and our ELL teachers and everyone. It's been a team effort, but when we say audit, I just want to stress that it goes back a year for prep work of trying to discover what they need and to produce what they need. So we will keep you apprised, and I definitely want to thank Mrs. Barris and Dr. Mackay for their efforts in this. Thank you so much, ladies. Any questions before I move on? I'm pleased to let you know that the Superintendent Scholar Luncheon that we were not able to have last year, and that's been postponed, is scheduled for May 25th at Foley Stadium in Worcester. This will be live streamed to families. As you know, Talia Bienda is our Superintendent Scholar. Talia and Mr. Thomas and myself will celebrate her accomplishments with other superintendent scholars across the Worcester County. That will be on May 25th. We're looking forward to that. I'd also like to let you know that Unit B negotiations are scheduled for Thursday. And just some of the work, highlighting some of the work that we're doing with the kids coming back to school. We're really taking the opportunity to take a deeper look at literacy across the district. So we've made a concerted effort to do a literacy reset. Really, reading is the foundation for everything. So I think I've shared this with you before. We've been working with our early literacy consultant for the early literacy grant and our consultants on our reading program to really line up what a literacy block needs to look like and what materials we're going to be using. We have spent a lot of money over the last 4 years on research-based materials, and we're really kind of picking to see what works. And then we're really trying to get to the point where our interventions for students that are 1 grade or 2 grades below are separate from core instruction, but really explicit based on their needs. So we really are trying to make a focus of using data in an ongoing fashion to inform how we're going to close some learning gaps. And that's our focus. So we're pleased that we're trying to do this collaboratively with our teachers across the district and with some literacy expert help. So a couple of the things that I want to just share with you that we are in process. We are in the process of writing the Gleam Grant, which is a grant to get literacy experts to come in and help from grade 6 to 12. So that grant's due Thursday. Again, Mr. Thomas and Mrs. Peterson and Dr. Mackay and Mrs. Chapdelaine and myself have been working with some of our teachers and trying to put this grant together so that we can have some explicit, cohesive literacy programming across our district without any gaps. We have also taken the steps to talk to Hill Literacy to see if we don't get the grant, if they can work with us, because we know from our initial data that we really need to shore up our teaching of reading and closing gaps for kids. So we're excited about that. I also want to let you know that as once again, our community is always reaching out to help us. The It Starts at Home organization received one of the MAFRE large grants like we did at the beginning of the year. And they're looking to put together educational care packages for students in need, working with a counselor at each school to get a list of items that they might put together for some students. I do want to give a shout out to Desiree Moniz and the Moniz family and Dunkin' Donuts for their recent donation during Teacher Appreciation Week. They brought their Dunkin' Donuts truck over to the Webster Middle School, and everyone appreciated that. Our COVID numbers for the week of May 4th were only 7 cases. We did not have a chance to wrap up this week data, but we have seen a decline, so that's all good news. And I'll give you a snapshot on our enrollment data. At Park Ave, we have 587 students coming into school, and we have 124 that have remained remote. Over at Webster Middle School, we have 435 students that are coming into school and 138 students that have remained remote. And at Bartlett High School, we have 237 students that are coming to school and 127 students that have remained remote. And finally, I do want to let you know that there's a lot of behind the scene work being done with innovation pathways, the program of studies, and developing that. I have had the pleasure of interviewing 2 consultants today. Mr. Thomas and Mrs. Nieves and I had a second interview with an innovation pathway project manager. It's very promising. Those consultants really know the innovation pathways and course selection and what courses need to look like and the rigor. So we are looking to hire a consultant to help us as we proceed down that pathway. And other positive news, I did receive yesterday that notice from the DESE that our Title I, Title IIA, and Title IV-A in our monitoring, our federal grant monitoring review, we have successfully completed all the requirements, and there is no further follow-up action. We really like to frame those kind of letters, so that's good news and a testament to some of the good work that's going on in our district. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Dr. Gogan. Are
You're
there any
welcome.
questions or comments from the committee? Hearing none, the next item on the agenda is the business manager report. Good evening, Mrs. Perangeli.
Good evening. Thank you. I have a very brief report tonight. In School Building Committee, we have a meeting coming up on May 27th. We are still awaiting feedback from the MSBA in regards to our PDP report that was submitted in. So we will be hopefully having that back soon, so we can take a look at it, review it briefly at our meeting on the 27th from 6 to 7. And we're looking to have a community forum after that from 7 to 8 to get community feedback and to inform them of the project. So we will be holding a couple of those moving forward. We're going to look to do the same thing in June, have our school building committee, and then following that, do another community forum to get that feedback. Because as you know, we have to come up with a single option by July, a recommendation to submit to the MSBA. So it's important to be meeting with the community, getting their feedback, answering any questions. We are also doing June 18th, 2 quick half-hour presentations district-wide for our staff to make sure they're informed of what we're looking for moving forward as far as the project is concerned, what options we're looking at, what our educational plan will look like. And we're just hoping to continue to get that information out to anybody and answer all questions so everybody can be as informed as they can as we move forward and select an option. So that's where we stand. We will be meeting again on May 27th and look for the flyers. We'll be tweeting them and sending them out soon. We'll be reaching out to our families and hopefully getting a lot of interest. They will be virtual meetings. So hopefully that'll help pique the interest, make it a little easier for families at home to be able to sit down and jump in and dial in and listen to what we have going on here in Webster. And that concludes my report.
Very exciting. Thank you for your updates. I can't wait to see what you have in store for us with the ideas for Bartlett. Very, very exciting. Are there any questions or comments from the committee? Hearing none. The next item on the agenda is the principal report. Joining us tonight is Fran Thomas from Bartlett High School. Good evening, Mr. Thomas.
Good evening, Chair Siddiqui. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. And you?
Hanging in there. I'm going to be brief as well this evening. I know Viv is up after me, so I won't cover sports. I think she may go over some of the preliminary stuff for senior activities as well, so I won't go over that. One thing she doesn't have to do is course selection, since she's a senior. So we're in the midst of that right now. The middle school is just beginning their process, so we'll have them on board shortly. We have about 50 students so far who have not filled out their schedule, but the rest have. So we'll be doing outreach for them, looking at teacher recommendations, things like that. But it's going pretty well. The pandemic last year necessitated doing this online, and it worked well. So we've continued that this year. And as you know, the program of studies that you folks approved was integral to that, and parents had a chance to look over that over the April break. So I think it's gone pretty well. The other thing that we're in the midst of that presents some logistical issues is we're in our testing phase now. Juniors and seniors are taking their AP exams, and as some students were remote, involve some outreach to them. We've had to do it in the gym so that those students who are remote can come in an isolated fashion and leave the same way. It's worked out okay, except for when it rains, because obviously we have to displace the PE classes. So they've been very creative, using the cafeteria at times and some of the weight room equipment. But we'll be doing that testing through May 17th for the AP. And then we have to go through a similar process with MCAS, which again is very different this year. Unlike the middle school and elementary school, there is no remote option for high school. So the state has changed its mind several times about this. Currently, the sophomores are the ones who have to take the test. Juniors and some seniors may, if they want to apply for the scholarship. But when I send out the letter, I'm going to recommend that those juniors wait and take it in the November retest time, since they will not have been in-person learning for about 5 weeks now, as opposed to about 2.5 months in the fall. And you can only take it once for scholarship purposes. So I would not want a junior to take it now, not do well, and then not be able to take it again in the fall. But we will have that option open for them should they decide to want to take it now. Again, that will present some logistical issues. We'll have to do it differently than what was done in the past, but we think we have a good plan for that. So that will be like the last week of May. Then after the seniors are gone, we'll be doing the freshman bio exams the beginning of June. And the last thing, I guess I should pause to see if anyone has any questions at this point. Okay, seeing none.
Sorry, through the chair.
Okay.
Mr. Thomas, I actually hadn't thought about the juniors taking the retake in the fall, because Sophia and I have had the discussion about whether to take MCAS or not. And, you know, she was anxious about doing it now with AP testing and SATs. So that's a good option. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it, you know, with all the stuff that's going on right now and the fact that most students have only been here 5 days a week, a very short time, and in-person learning seems to be more effective. If we start in person next year, they'll have a good 2.5 months before the retest period to do it, and they won't be dealing with AP and SATs and things like that at that time. So I think that's a better option, but obviously we'll leave it up to parents. Okay, and the last thing I want to talk about, I had talked about previously, some of the work that we're doing with Nichols to kind of enhance our current dual enrollment program that we're doing with them. As you are aware, we've offered some accelerated courses. We've offered some online courses. A couple of things that I'm really excited about is they're going to review some of our courses that we currently teach at Bartlett High to see how they fit into their programs, and perhaps create an articulation agreement where students would take a Bartlett course as it's currently offered and also receive Nichols credits for taking that course, because we know that the schedule of some of our students makes it very difficult for them to participate in any of those online courses or supplemental accelerated courses. So this would be another opportunity for students to get a leg up and then pursue Nichols as a post-secondary option. The other thing that I'm really excited about, we're talking about creating a bridge program, a summer bridge program for seniors. Currently, this happens every year. You talk to some seniors, they haven't quite got a minimum GPA to get into some colleges. They're not really sure what they want to do. What Nichols is willing to do is take those students, create a summer bridge program course that would be a week, maybe a week and a half in length. And if those students took that course, they then would accept them into Nichols regardless of what GPA they had. So that would be a way to bridge that gap between the minimum GPA required to get accepted into Nichols, and give those students an option, because we always run into this situation where a senior, whether it's halfway through their senior year or the start of their senior year, the kind of like the light goes on and they said, hey, I really want to go to college, but their grades aren't quite what they should be, particularly if they decide, you know, around the holiday times and they have those half-year courses and things like that, and trying to get them to catch up at that point and make up those grades is a difficult prospect. So this would be another option for those kids. And it would help us with our partnership with Nichols. I believe this year currently we have 3 seniors, possibly 4 that are going to Nichols. And I think it's just an incredible opportunity for us. Our proximity to them and our existing relationship is going to allow us to create a lot of things that will not be possible for students like, say, North High from Worcester, who's also involved in this. There's just a geographical barrier to them to getting there. The other thing, like I said, we're working on some micro credentials so that there would be a shorter time period for a student to earn Nichols credits, and stacking them together would accumulate into a certain number of Nichols credits provided the student went to Nichols. The other thing is a longer term project is trying to create a semester-long course through Nichols that our students could take in place of a Bartlett High course. There's a lot of logistical issues with a rotating schedule that the high school has that college doesn't, and the length of time of our semesters doesn't match up with theirs, but there's potential to do it. We have met with all their department heads, as well as Katie Moulton, and there's a new administration taking hold there that also has indicated their flexibility in working with us. So I think there's a lot of potential to expand this and to create more opportunities for our kids upon graduation. And that concludes my report for this evening. I'd be happy to entertain any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. Are there any questions or comments from the committee?
Through the chair. Mr. Thomas, could you just give us a brief summary? I know that there's a lot of questions about the seniors and some of the events. Can you just give us a snapshot on things to come?
Sure. I didn't know if Viv was going to cover this. Viv was in a meeting
maybe
this
she is.
afternoon,
Okay.
with myself and the entire senior class officers and the senior advisors, and we kind of mapped out our tentative plan and calendar of what we were going to do and what's been planned. Obviously, there's still some, permit application stuff that has to go through you, and several things that require, some safety protocol things to make sure that we double check, but we did lay out our things. Viv, is that something you were gonna talk about?
I didn't have any specific dates in my report. I just had that we had met and come up with general ideas. I just wasn't sure where it wasn't official yet.
Okay. Will that be sufficient, Dr. Gorman, or do you want me to lay out some dates?
Well, generally, I just want the community to know that we are having an outdoor graduation. We are looking at proms. We are doing some celebrations for our seniors like we did last year. So I just want to make sure that people know that that's in the works.
Okay, I will hang on while Viv gives hers, and if there's any questions or things like that, I can jump in there as well.
Okay.
But if there,
Thank you.
okay.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments from the committee or? No? Okay. Well, hearing none, we'll move on to the student representative update. Hi, Vivian.
Hi, good evening. So for athletics, on Thursday, May 6th, the baseball team played Northbridge and the boys tennis beat Northbridge, as well as the girls tennis team. And on Thursday, May 6th, the boys and girls track team beat Southbridge. And Friday, May 7th, the softball team played Northbridge and Douglas. And on Monday, May 10th, softball and baseball traveled to Auburn on Monday. And also on Monday, May 10th, girls and boys tennis both beat Auburn. And today, the JV baseball team traveled to Oxford. And coming up this week, baseball and softball teams are going to be hosting Oxford tomorrow on Wednesday, May 12th. And the middle school softball team is going to be traveling to Uxbridge on Friday, May 14th. And senior athletic platforms are due on Friday, May 14th. DECA's senior sweatshirts were picked up in person this afternoon on May 11th. And for students who are remote and who had placed an order, they're able to go pick them up in the office. And on Friday, April 31st, seniors wore their college gear to celebrate National Decision Day, which was great to see where everyone's planning on going next year. The Yearbook Club is working to gather votes for senior class quote, which the form was sent out yesterday, Monday, May 10th. The Nichols Leadership Academy held a meeting on Wednesday, May 5th to discuss resume writing. And as Mr. Thomas had mentioned, AP exams have been going on the past 2 weeks, so students are working very hard with that. And also, as he had mentioned, the events that the senior class have been planning. We're currently working on doing the graduation parade that's usually done every year, as well as a senior barbecue. And we're also trying to plan a senior trip and an outdoor type prom that's going to be at the school. But it's going to be much more casual than a normal prom if we're able to do it. So seniors don't have to go out and buy dresses and stuff if they don't already have that stuff. We had also been talking about doing a movie night towards the end of senior week, which would be great. We're going to get a big blow up projector and have a form sent out where people can vote on which movies they'd like to watch. And then we're going to do a senior sunrise at some point. So seniors would come to the school early in the morning, and then we would get donuts and juice and stuff like that, and we'd watch the sunrise, which is going to be a great thing to do with the senior class. And if I'm missing anything, I'm not sure if I am, Mr. Thomas, but if not, I'm going to conclude my report tonight.
Okay, I think Viv, you covered just about everything. If I could lay out kind of like a tentative timeline for these things, we would do our senior awards and barbecue would be June 2nd. So our tentative plan again. The prom would be June 5th. We'd be looking to do a parade on the 6th, which obviously has to be discussed. That's a Sunday. And that would involve buses and police and fire and that sort of stuff. So that's a tentative date. We would be looking, they want to do their class trip on that Monday, the 6th. And then the rest of those events are kind of fluid. We have tentatively planned with Park Avenue and Webster Middle School to do our grad parade through the elementary school and middle school on June 10th. And then as Dr. Gogan alluded to, the graduation will be June 11th. The updated DESE guidelines do allow us to have more members per graduate this year than last year. Last year was 4, this year it is 6. And the spectators will still have to be separated by 6-foot distances. But our graduates, because of the masks and stuff, can now be 3 feet. So that should shorten the distance that they have to walk from the end of their aisle across up to get their diploma. So that should speed things up. We are trying to have a rain date as well as Sunday, because obviously if you family plans on bringing 6 members, we would hate to have to move that indoors and limit that. You know, if people have traveled, we can't do our rain date on the following Saturday because there's a dance recital at the high school, which will probably bring more people than would be at graduation. So we can't do that Saturday. So the rain date would be Sunday. So everyone keep your fingers crossed that it doesn't rain Friday night. The other things that we have ordered are signs for our seniors this year. So there's a whole bunch of activities that are going on. We just hesitate to publish them in terms of this is happening when at this time until we get all the approvals and stuff signed. But all this stuff is in the work, and rest assured, people are working on it. They have been working on this prom committee for a long time now. So stuff is in the works, and it's an ongoing effort, but we have the timeline laid out now. So we just need to work out some of the details and make sure that this is all possible with everyone.
Thank you, Vivian and Mr. Thomas. I just wanted to make sure everybody knew that things were in the works and people didn't have to worry.
Thank you, Vivian and Mr. Thomas, for the updates. Much appreciated. I understand there's a birthday today. Is somebody celebrating a birthday, Mr. Thomas? Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Happy birthday, Mr.
You're welcome.
Thomas.
Happy birthday.
Thanks for spending it with us. We greatly appreciate it. That's dedication right there. Are there any other questions or comments from the committee for Mr. Thomas or for Vivian? No? Okay. Well, thank you again. The next on the agenda, we're moving into old business. So it would be the monthly fundraising update. Just as a reminder, it's not the role of school committee to approve fundraisers, but we do review them on a regular basis.
The Webster Middle School Junior Honor Society is selling coffee to raise funds for their next year induction.
Okay, thank you. And the next item on the agenda is a superintendent evaluation. It's a presentation of goals. Dr. Gogan.
Thank you. In your school committee packet, you have a detailed list of my evidence of how I believe I met my goals. I definitely believe I met my goals this year. I don't think I've ever worked so hard or used my critical thinking and problem solving skills, or extended my heart to the level of worry that we have all had this year. COVID's really shook everybody, and I took my responsibility as the superintendent of Webster quite serious, and made sure that we worked really hard and collaboratively to put plans in place to keep everyone safe, and most importantly, to keep connections with our students and staff. And I believe we have successfully done that, and I'm very proud to say that we have done that better than any district that I am aware of. And I know a lot of districts because of the teamwork and the effort by everybody in our district. I may be the superintendent, I may have clear communication and provide some support for structures, but a lot of the implementation of what we did was because we all moved together with one direction. So I don't have a presentation beyond sharing with you how I believe I met my goals. For new school committee members, I certainly have binders upon binders upon binders of evidence, and I invite you in to come and look at them. I'm happy to answer any question, but I will briefly run through how I believe I met my goals, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. I think my goal for instructional leadership, much of what we do, I share with you. I believe my transparency with the school committee and the use of data is in every single school committee meeting. I hold district leadership team meetings weekly. I provide support and coaching and professional development for my principals. As you see every week, we are a turnaround district, and the work that we have to do is quite different than many other districts. We really need to ensure that our structures are in place and that we have support, focusing on the social emotional development of our children, as well as the academic needs of our kids. Just looking back on the year when you have to present your goals, it's been quite a year. We started with a reopening committee last year, and we were one of the first districts to have our 3 model plans presented and approved by Designee. Unlike a lot of districts, we've had one consistent model. We've had a full day of synchronous learning. We shifted to hybrid in November, and recently shifted to welcome our kids back. And that has gone very smoothly. And it has gone smoothly, as smooth as possible, because of the protocols that we have put in place and the structures that we have put in place, and that everyone in our district has put their best foot forward to follow. I'm pretty much a hands-on superintendent, and I've had to be in the COVID leadership time. I've been very involved with professional development even prior to COVID, but more so this year. Lots of things that the normal things that some districts have tossed aside still occurred here in Webster. The memorandum of understanding that we signed with the district attorney's office to provide signs of suicide training, all of those trainings were held this year. We proceeded with that. We trained our staff. We had virtual trainings for families. We've had the American Research Institute come in and do the tag turnaround reviews on top of balancing life in COVID. And we all know what life in COVID is. Very, very challenging for families, for students, and for teachers and staff. So my evidence is certainly lengthy, and I really don't want to read it all. So it's there. In terms of management and operations, we certainly produced a budget that was realistic based on our needs. That was done in a collaborative fashion, not only with our principals and district leadership team, teachers, but the town. So, we've gone and done all of those public hearings and tri-committee meetings. And on top of that, we're working diligently to produce a very rigorous educational plan to communicate that clearly to our community, to help with the understanding of why we need a renovation at Bartlett High School. The COVID safety protocols, just hands down the protocols that we've put in our district, from the self-assessments to our communication, our ongoing communication, to do contact tracing. An incredible shout out goes out to our COVID leadership team and our school nurses and our Board of Health director. One of the rewards of COVID this year has been building relationships with people that we might not have typically had day-to-day communications with. Our nursing team is a dynamite team, truly caring and committed. And so there have been really shining lights that have come out of all of this work together. Tiered focus monitoring review on top of COVID. Meeting weekly with the COVID leadership team, certainly increased involvement with the adult education program and hiring new directors, and looking to continue our family and community engagement. We've hired a bilingual family liaison. We continue to work with MAFRE, Sandy Hook Promise, the It Starts at Home organization, and our town as a community. I'm proud to be the superintendent of the Webster Public Schools. I don't know how else to put it. We try to keep our communication fluid and flowing, and keep everyone informed, and to be transparent with the good, bad, and the ugly, so that we can solve the good, bad, and the ugly and move forward. I believe under my leadership, the philosophy of tackling problems and putting structures together and having people have a voice in that process has been the way that I will continue to lead. And I'm happy to answer any questions. And it's not easy to talk about myself. So those are my goals. And I invite you in to speak to me one-on-one and look at my evidence.
Thank you, Dr. Gogan. Are there any questions or comments from the committee for Dr. Gogan?
Through the chair, I just want to let the new members know that going down and looking through Dr. Gogan's binders is awesome, and you should take the opportunity to do that, because she really organizes it very well so that you can see all the hard work that is being done and how it's organized to directly reflect the goals that she has set.
Thank
I'll
you,
be
Mrs.
down.
McFadden. Oh. Are there any
I'm
other
not staying long. There's a lot more binders than there have been in the past.
Are there
For
any
the
other?
chair,
Yes, Mrs. Millen.
I would like to say, which I said at last night's meeting, I think right from the beginning, the district as a whole, including everyone, from central office to all our staff, have done a phenomenal job during this pandemic time, including the help from our community. And I think that's one of the things with our communication. I would like to see our website more updated, so the parents and community can see more of what our students are doing. And I would love to see more in our local newspaper, because our students do an awful lot of great things. And I would like to have everyone see those. But I think a huge thank you to everyone involved in the district for the phenomenal job that has been done during this difficult time. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Millett. Are there any other questions or comments from folks?
To the chair. I just want to say thank you to Dr. Gogan for everything she's done over the last year. I mean, it's been a very unique year. It's been my only year so far being on the board, but I can say that with everything that everyone else is going through, she had to balance both the needs that we requested for her, that the parents put on her, that the students requested, and her staff. So for her to balance all that and get us through the school year and come this far, I think is a testament to what she's done. And I really just want to say thank you for everything over the last year.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Adamopoulos. And, just to echo that, keeping a school district running during a global pandemic is not easy. And Dr. Gogan, you didn't just keep the district running. You, along with the district leadership, the building principals, the school nurses, the teachers, have kept us thriving and moving forward. I have never been prouder to be a part of this committee or a part of the school community than, after witnessing all of the effort and dedication that's gone into this school year, by the whole team. So I thank you for your strong leadership and your laser focus on forward progress. It wasn't just maintenance this year, as evidenced by, what you've put together, and just, the fruits of the year speak for themselves. But we didn't just keep going. We really continued to thrive in some very difficult circumstances. So, and I know that it's a group effort, and I know that's what you're probably about to say, but thank you and all of the whole team as well, for all that you all have done over the past year.
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Ms. Blythe.
Here I am tonight. I'm last, but I wanted to echo everybody's sentiments. This year has been trying. We have had many public and private conversations, how to get the kids moving forward. How do we make sure the teachers, staff, the cafeteria team, the custodians are safe. And right from day one, last March, you made it a priority. So safety was never really an issue in my mind, because you've done everything that you possibly could to make the school safe for everybody involved. So I wanted to also say thank you. I know how tirelessly everybody has worked, and it shows, and the kids are back and they are happier than ever. So hopefully I will not hear from my child again, I don't want to go to school today. There's been smiles all around, and I think it's good to have people back. So thank you for everything this year, and your team, cafeteria, custodians, nurses, everybody. The community has just really rallied around each other. So it's nice to see the positives, right, that you pull out of it.
We are blessed. I do say that all the time, and it is a team effort. And, I do have the knack of looking ahead and trying to get us to take the next step and keep us moving. But there is a team effort here, and I wouldn't want to be anywhere else. So it's been an interesting ride, and I'm glad there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and we're all back in school, and hopefully it just keeps getting sunnier and sunnier.
Well, thank you, Dr. Gogan, and to the committee. So we should schedule a time with you to come and check out your binders. Is that right?
Yes, you can come anytime. They're there.
Perfect.
You don't have to schedule it. Just come on in.
Sounds good. Well, thank you. So moving on to new business, the next item on the agenda is the designation of the email record keeper. Traditionally, I believe this has been Lori Marazzo's role. Is that correct? It's been very helpful for you to have taken on that role over the years, Lori. Is this a nomination that we're seeking here, Dr. Gogan?
Yes. With the reorganization of the committee, all of these positions need to be renominated.
Okay. So I'll entertain a nomination for the designation of the email record keeper.
Madam Chair, I would like to nominate Lori Marazzo for that role.
There's a nomination and a second from Mr. Adamopoulos. Lori, would you please poll the committee?
Member Millet,
Yes.
Member Naprata,
Yes.
Member Blythe,
Yes.
Member Adamopoulos,
Yes.
Chair Siddiqui.
Yes, the motion passes unanimously. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the designation of the legislative representative. I believe this has been Mr. Adamopoulos to this point. I'll entertain a nomination for the legislative representative moving forward.
Madam Chair, I'd like to nominate Mr. Adamopoulos for this role.
Second.
There's a nomination and a second. Are there any, I should have asked this the last time and I'm sorry I didn't. Are there any other nominations? Okay, hearing none. Lori, would you please poll the committee?
Member Millet,
Yes.
Member Naprata,
Yes.
Member Blythe,
Yes.
Member Adamopoulos,
Yes.
Chair Siddiqui.
Yes, passes unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Adamopoulos. The next item on the agenda is the appointment of a school committee member as payroll designee. I'll entertain a nomination.
We did it last year, if you don't
Yeah.
mind.
I'm
There's
thinking
Siddiqui.
it's Kelly because she's not saying anything.
It was,
Madam Chair,
Yes, Ms. Naprata.
I nominate Kelly Siddiqui to be the payroll designee.
Second.
The motion in 2 seconds. Are there any other nominations? Hearing none. Lori, would you please poll the committee?
Member Millet,
Yes.
Member Naprata,
Yes.
Member Blythe,
Yes.
Member Adamopoulos,
Yes.
Chair Siddiqui.
Yes, that nomination passes unanimously as well. The next item on the agenda is the appointment of a school committee member as backup payroll designee. Ms. Blythe last year.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Ms. Naprata.
I nominate Sheila Blythe to be backup payroll designee.
Second.
There's a nomination and a second. Are there any other nominations? Okay, hearing none. Lori, would you please poll the committee?
Member Millet,
Yes.
Member Naprata,
Yes.
Member Blythe,
Yes.
Member Adamopoulos,
Yes.
Chair Siddiqui.
Yes, that nomination passes unanimously. Just a couple more. I know these are really exciting. The next item on the agenda is the appointment of a school committee member as warrant designee. I believe this was Ms. Millett last year.
I'd like to make a motion to nominate Ms. Millett for that role.
Second.
There's a nomination and a second. Are there any other nominations? Lori, could you poll the committee, please?
Member Blythe,
Yes.
Member Naprata,
Yes.
Member Millet,
Yes.
Member Adamopoulos,
Yes.
Chair Siddiqui.
Yes, that passes unanimously. The next item on the agenda is the appointment of a school committee member as backup warrant designee. I actually don't remember who that was last year. You know who you are.
Mrs. Blythe.
Me, I think it was me.
Ms. Blythe.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Ms.
I would
Naprata.
like to nominate Sheila Blythe for backup warrant designee.
Second,
The nomination and a second. Are there any other nominations? Hearing none. Lori, could you please poll the committee?
Member Millet,
yes.
Member Naprata,
Yes.
Member Blythe,
Yes.
Member Adamopoulos,
Yes.
Chair Siddiqui.
Yes, that passes unanimously. And the next item on the agenda is the end of year transfer request. Mrs. Perangeli.
Thank you. In your packet, you should have received a letter requesting transfers between funds. We are getting ready to close out FY21. I have never been so excited to close out a fiscal year in my life. So I am ready to get moving, and this will help facilitate the process. Typically, I can transfer between function codes, which means that I can transfer between salary and salary. This letter allows me to transfer funds between salaries and maybe an expense account to make the closeout much smoother. As always, once done, I have a file of all our closeout transfers, and I am happy to share them upon request. We keep them here in the office.
Okay, so Mrs. Perangeli, are you looking for our approval?
Yes, a motion to approve transfers between accounts for closeout.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Lori, could you please poll the committee?
Member Blythe,
Yes.
Member Naprata,
Yes.
Member Millet,
Yes.
Member Adamopoulos,
Yes.
Chair Siddiqui.
Yes, that motion passes unanimously. Next on the agenda is a review, transfer, signing of warrants, bills, payroll, and vouchers. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Lori, could you poll the committee, please?
Member Millet,
Yes.
Member Naprata,
Yes.
Member Blythe,
Yes.
Member Adamopoulos,
Yes.
Chair Siddiqui.
Yes, motion passes unanimously. Have a nice night, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Night.
Good night.
Night.